Ever since the first cave paintings, art has been used to record information. As time and technology progressed, people discovered new artistic mediums to document history, such as drawing, writing, and photography. In 1922, Robert J. Flaherty made a film about Eskimos and introduced documentaries, an art form used to record information. With his documentary Nanook of the North, Robert J. Flaherty left a legacy in the film industry and society by combining information and plot into a movie, leading the creation and popularization of the genre of modern documentaries. Before Nanook of the North, films either presented information or drama, separating the two major aspects of modern documentaries. Writer and film enthusiast Stuart Dunlop says, "The essential element of a good documentary is simply the story. The audience must have an intellectual and emotional tie to the film." I interviewed documentarian Joel Washing about the importance of a story in a documentary.
In life, we create stories out of everything that we do. So documentaries have to mimic real life in that way.
The first filmmakers, the Lumiere brothers, made silent black and white films that recorded real events like a train pulling into a station. These single-shot films documented true information but lacked any kind of plot with basic exposition or conflict. Later, films such as The Great Train Robbery and A Trip to the Moon introduced editing and a narrative, but they failed to record any true information. None of these historically significant films acted like a modern documentary. The film industry needed Robert J. Flaherty to understand the appeal of adding plot and information in a movie. Robert J. Flaherty was born in 1884 to a Michigan miner. As a child, he tagged along on his father's mining expeditions in northern Canada. While there, he met Eskimos and Native Americans and fell in love with their unique cultures. When Flaherty's mother forced him to return to high school, he did not understand societal rules, such as using silverware. Flaherty's childhood equipped him with a passion for adventure, northern Canada, and Native Americans, and he also learned the necessary skills to live in a cold, desolate environment. These would come in handy as he shot Nanook of the North. In 1913, Flaherty first attempted to film Eskimos. He traveled to northern Canada with a movie camera and recorded footage that showed various aspects of Eskimo life. When he returned to New York City and began editing the film, he dropped his cigarette, causing the whole film to catch fire. He tried to extinguish the flames with his bare hands, but he wound up in the hospital with severe wounds and no film. At first, he grieved the loss of his film, but eventually he said, "Though it did seem to be a tragedy at the time, I am not sure but what it was a bit of fortune that it did burn, for it was amateurish enough." Flaherty knew that he needed to produce a more interesting film with a storyline, dramatic conflict, and a riveting climax to keep audiences interested as they absorbed information. Flaherty's first film gave him filmmaking insight, and its destruction motivated him to return to the North and create an improved film, Nanook of the North. In 1915, Robert J. Flaherty began creating Nanook of the North in collaboration with the Eskimos of northern Canada. He appointed an acclaimed Eskimo hunter, known as Nanook, to serve as the main character in his film, and he chose Eskimos to portray Nanook's family. Flaherty made sure to heavily include Eskimos and their ideas in the making of Nanook of the North so that the film accurately depicted Eskimo life. The Eskimos suggested scenes for Flaherty to include in his film and collaborated on ideas with him. Flaherty also employed the Eskimos' intrinsic mechanical skills. They maintained and repaired his camera, sometimes when Flaherty could not, and helped him cart water to expose his film stock. In return, he granted them full access to his white man technology. The Eskimos did not understand why Flaherty wanted to make a film about them. They thought of themselves as the most normal, boring people in the world. Flaherty said he created the film to show the Inuit not from the civilized point of view, but as they saw themselves, as we the people. Filmmaker John Grierson established the word documentary as a part of American film language in a review of Flaherty's later film Moana, saying, "It has documentary value." but Nanook of the North is often considered to be the film that led the creation of the documentary genre by modern standards. Modern documentaries present information as well as dramatic conflict to keep the audiences interested, and Flaherty progressively included those ideas in Nanook of the North. Nanook of the North presents information by displaying true scenes of Eskimos performing daily tasks such as hunting walrus or building an igloo, which reflects Eskimoan culture before the influence of white travelers. Also, Nanook of the North contains a heavy dramatic storyline. The film embodies the conflict of man versus nature. The story reaches a climax as Nanook fights a walrus, determining Nanook and his family's survival during a hunting dry spell. Even though many critics consider Nanook of the North a documentary, some argue that it does not accurately represent modern documentaries. Some critics don't like that Flaherty staged certain aspects of his film, claiming it makes the film untruthful. Flaherty openly admitted to selecting Eskimos to play the family in his film. Also, some scenes were staged. For example, the Eskimos performed their nighttime routine during the day in an igloo without a top, so that Flaherty could have enough light to film. A writer for Turner Classic Movies says, "Although this or that scene may be staged, it depicts real-life Inuit survival skills." Just because Flaherty directed the Eskimos does not make the film any less genuine. The Eskimos still performed tasks as they always did. Eskimos were heavily involved in the production of the film so as to give an accurate depiction of Eskimo life. Also, the harsh environment forced Flaherty to stage some parts of the film so that he could quickly obtain good shots without putting himself or the Eskimos in too much danger.
While some of it was maybe staged in a certain way, Flaherty did that because he wanted to show the things that the Inuits of northern Canada did, what they did in their daily life.
Even though Nanook of the North includes some staging, it still constitutes as a modern documentary since it presents true information about the lives of Eskimos and is interspersed with dramatic conflict. Viewers had never experienced a film that combined information and plot, so they saw Nanook of the North as extraordinary and new. The film became a hit all over the world, leading the popularization of the genre of documentaries. Robert Flaherty commented on the popularity of his film, saying, "Nanook of the North has gone into most of the odd corners of the world, where audiences must be told that white means snow, and more white men than there are stones around the shore of Nanook's home have looked upon Nanook." Nanook of the North inspired books, songs, and a German ice cream product named after Nanook. Even critics did not know what to make of the film, but they praised it highly nonetheless. Audiences began to crave more documentary-like films. Production companies eagerly supported Flaherty's later documentaries, which the public also received well.
He laid the groundwork for future documentarians to kind of have something to base it on. When Flaherty made his documentary, he had no precedent.
Flaherty also inspired other documentarians, such as John Grierson and Robert Drew. Because of the revolutionary leadership of Flaherty's Nanook of the North, documentaries became popular among the public, cinematic critics, and filmmakers. Nanook of the North left a legacy as the first documentary, influencing the modern commonness of documentaries in the film industry. In an article from The Guardian, the author says, "We have become so accustomed to television documentaries that we have quite forgotten where it all originated. One of the fountainheads was Robert Flaherty." Nanook of the North revolutionized films by being the first to keep viewers informed and interested with its combination of information and story, a template that most modern documentaries are based on. Robert J. Flaherty went on to create other documentaries such as Moana, Land of Aran, and Louisiana Story, but none became as popular and well-received as Nanook of the North. Nanook of the North led the creation and popularization of the genre of modern documentaries and left a legacy as the first documentary. Because of Nanook of the North, documentary films have become a popular artistic medium to present information, utilize freedom of speech, and spread opinions.